I'm not going to get too ahead of myself, but I will say, don't be surprised if we're talking about this shoe again in December. What's going on, everyone? Welcome. My name is Jalik. If this is your first time here, welcome to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. If it's not your first time, then welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. In this video, we have a detailed looking review at one of my most anticipated hoop shoe of 2022. It is the New Balance 2-Way V2. So this is kind of a nerdy story, but I've been anticipating this shoe ever since I downloaded NBA 2K22. When did that come out? Like September last year? They actually had a digital render of these uploaded to the game way back all those months ago. And since then, I have been heavily anticipating this shoe, which is funny because I don't even really actually care for the visuals of the shoe overall. What I was most excited for, honestly, was that it was a version 2 of the 2-Way, a shoe that I really enjoyed last year. And it also looked like they were changing some things up tech-wise, which we will get into later on in the video. But before we get into the tech specs, just a quick rundown of how we got here to the 2-Way V2. New Balance returned to the performance basketball market by signing Kawhi Leonard. He started out wearing what we thought was his signature at the time, the New Balance Omnis, that was for a while a limited and very hype shoe. Like resale prices, all that stuff was just going crazy. They were doing all these limited drops, but that didn't actually turn out to be Kawhi Leonard's signature. New Balance eventually followed up with his signature, the Kawhi 1. That was in 2020, kind of at the height of the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. Fast forward to 2021, we had basically what was a follow-up to the New Balance Omnis as a team model, and that was version 1 of this shoe, the New Balance 2-Way. And then fast forward to this year, just a few months ago, the New Balance Kawhi 2 was released, and now we have the New Balance 2-Way V2. I do also want to acknowledge there were some low tops of the team models that were released here and there. They weren't quite as easy to get, but they were out there, so I'll just note that. But overall, as far as general silhouettes go, we now are on our 5th silhouette in this era of New Balance hoops. Now, starting off with the outsole on this thing, the rubber here is not as thick as it was on the Omnis. It's not as thick as it was on the Kawhi 1 or 2, and it's not as thick as it was on the 2-Way. However, this pattern is, man, when I see this outsole, I think of 2 shoes in particular. If you take the Air Jordan 1 with that radial pivot point, add in a little bit of Nike Kobe 9, balance that out with something new. See what I did there? This is, I'm very interested to see how this performs. I mean, speaking of those 2 shoes, it's like taking 2 of the top 10, if not top 5 best performing outsoles for basketball. I have a hard time seeing how things could go wrong here, but we'll have to see. Now, on this particular colorway, which is called the Neon Lights, by the way, I do like the colorway of this shoe, and I do like what New Balance has been doing with a lot of the colorways for their hoop shoes. So whoever's on the design team doing color theory and all of that good stuff, shout out to you. I see what you're doing. I like it. I like it a lot. But on this Neon Lights colorway, and what I'm sure probably will be for most colorways, you have solid rubber in the forefoot, and then you have translucent in the heel. There are some noticeable differences with the compounds. The solid rubber does not seem to be as pliable as the translucent, and then also you have a little bit more tackiness in the heel than you do up here. I do also want to acknowledge up in the forefoot, you do have a slight flex groove that you have up here, so transition and everything, I am hoping it's going to be good on this pair. But if any of you happen to be wondering how it does play, hopefully we can answer that in a few weeks. As far as cushion goes, we do have fuel cell going around the midsole, in addition to some new stuff. But speaking just on the fuel cell right now, this is a very low profile setup, and on this iteration with the 2-Way V2, I am going to say, despite how low to the ground it is, the abundance of court feel that you get with it, this might be the fluffiest, most elastic feeling fuel cell that I've felt in a New Balance basketball shoe thus far. So I'm excited and very interested to see how things play out with that. But in addition to this being a shoe designed for the 2-Way player, someone that plays both ends of the floor, New Balance is also touting this as being engineered for impact. So actually you have some additions in the heel that we haven't seen on a New Balance basketball shoe yet. New Balance is using what they call absorb technology, which is nothing new to the brand, but it is newer here in the basketball basketball market. So from what I know about New Balance, you have absorb foam, and then you also have an absorb gel, which I believe is called SBS or absorb SBS. I'm not sure what the SBS stands for, what that acronym is for, but I do know that it is a gel or thermoplastic if we're being technical. New Balance likes to use this because it doesn't break down quite the same and bottom out like a foam would. They also have absorb DTS, which is kind of a funny acronym if you have a dirty mind like me.
Yeah.
And we actually seen that on the channel recently with one of the lifestyle shoes that Chris got in for a review. I can't remember if it was it a 990, 993?
Bingo.
I apologize, I can't remember off the top of my head. Him and Jody pump out so many videos. They some real ones.
Aw, shucks.
But yeah, that shoe that they reviewed used Absorb DTS, which stands for Dynamic Transition System. And it's actually a combination of the Absorb Gel or SBS and Absorb Foam. Here on the 2-Way V2, they're using something called Absorb DRS, which stands for Dynamic Response System. And I believe it is the same as the DTS, just kind of laid out a little bit differently possibly. But from everything I can see and tell about the shoe, it does appear to be a blend of Absorb Foam and the Absorb Gel. Hopefully you all will be able to catch this on camera, but there's this little orange section here. That orange does look like it is the Absorb Foam, or at least a different type of foam than the fuel cell making up the rest of the midsole. And then where you have these little cored out circle areas where there's a little bit of pink showing through. Also funny if you have a dirty mind. That is actually the Absorb Gel, and I know this for sure because you can actually lift up the insole, take that out, and you will actually see and be able to touch the crash pad. So that's a very interesting addition that they have put into New Balance basketball now. It adds a little bit of springiness, and then of course, as I mentioned before, it is meant to not break down and bottom out, so it is also a resilient as well as responsive setup that you have in the heel. As far as materials go on the shoe, this is very similar to what we have on the New Balance Quad 2. Primarily it is made of Fit Weave Light, which is basically a woven or textile. It does have kind of a scratchy coat to it. However, this feels a little bit thinner and more flexible than the Quad 2. Even in some of the areas where they use fuse, even that seems a little bit thinner and flexible. This is more comfortable on foot than the Quad 2, at least from a try on, in my opinion. So I'm very excited about that. And then also something that I kind of had a gripe with on the Quad 2 with using felt materials and overuse of fuse. We got some nice nubuck on this pair. Making up this heel and collar area, it's a very buttery nubuck. It's even more buttery on the tongue. Speaking of the tongue, not this shoe, but this shoe over here. Not a fan of that smiley face. Even though it does make me laugh, it kind of reminds me of Mick Foley, Mankind back in the day. Have a nice day. It's still kind of cheesy. It's one of the things that I don't like about the looks of the shoe. I don't like that. I also don't like the big N on the side, but I get it. So back to the materials, I just think it's kind of funny that you can put this much nubuck on this shoe for $130 retail price, whereas the Quad 2 is what, 160, 150, 160, and you don't get anything close to this. Interesting, very interesting, especially since the Quad 1 was using leathers and different things like that. So it's just kind of like, eh. But now that I hopefully got that point across, I do also want to touch on a cool nod. So on the toe of the right shoe, you have play. On the toe of the left shoe, you have longer, so play longer, kind of a nod to the whole engineered for impact thing. And then also interesting on the toe box, being that this is the 2-Way V2, they actually have some directional arrows. They're pointing in lateral directions, and on the left shoe is pointing in a forward and backward motion, more for linear movement. So kind of a cool nod to the whole 2-Way thing. As far as fit goes on the New Balance 2-Way V2, this is a very nice, comfortable, snug, in my opinion, true to size. So I would recommend that you go true to size if you are looking to get this. If you are a wide footer, hopefully you have the opportunity to try these on. I was actually able to get this pair from a New Balance retail store where they even have like the whole 3D foot scan and all of that stuff. I didn't do any of that, but I was able to try on the shoe and make sure that true to size was the best fit for me. So hopefully as a wide footer, you can do that as well. Even though it is a snug true to size, I think these materials may break in well enough where you can probably go true to size as a wide footer as well. But if not true to size, size, then a half size up probably should do the trick for you. And then as far as support features go on the New Balance 2-Way V2, everything is pretty much standard here. The usual stuff that I talk about with support: internal heel counter, seems sturdy. You do have torsional support. It doesn't seem like it's quite as much as previous models within the New Balance basketball market have been. From what I can tell, it only extends probably about that far in the midfoot, maybe a little bit further, but I don't know. I can't even really tell if it's like the chicken foot that New Balance likes to do, which that is meant to represent a chicken foot, by the way. It's definitely not the torsional support you get in shoes like the Kawhis 1 or 2, but there is torsional support there if you need it. Even though this is a softer fuel cell foam, you do sit a bit within the midsole, so that's going to help with some containment, and the base is pretty wide as well. Overall, I'm really excited about the New Balance 2-Way V2. Like I mentioned before, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about this at the end of the year as far as best picks for the year, but only time in the shoes will tell, so hopefully I can follow up with you all pretty soon with a performance review. But that's about gonna wrap up what I have on the New Balance 2-Way V2. $130 retail price point. We will have a link down in the description box below if you are interested in checking them out. They are now available in the US. I know some other countries may have some delays with them, but as far as US consumers go, these are available now. Hopefully you can grab a pair if you're interested in them. And with all that being said, until the next time I see you all, I just want to thank you all so much. I appreciate all the support. I see all of the support that you guys have for us here at the WearTesters channel. So thank you. Thank you all so much. Until we meet again, y'all take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Leak out.